In today's video, we'll be discussing how you can create strategic battle scenes in your manga, comic, or light novel. When it comes to creating a good battle scene in your manga or comic or light novel, it's important to balance the emotional reasons behind the battle with the physical reasons for the battle. As the characters are fighting, consider what the emotional reason behind why they are fighting is, and consider how their goals can drive them in this battle scene. You will notice that in most anime or manga battle scenes, usually there will be an emotional reason or a goal behind it. Therefore, when you're creating a battle scene in your manga or comic or light novel, make sure that there's always a goal behind the scene and that you're always working towards that goal. Never have a fighting scene or a battle scene for no reason. As you work towards creating battle scenes in your story, it's important to understand your character's abilities and skills. Understand all of your character's individual strengths and weaknesses, and this can help you to create better battle scenes. More so, it is more important to focus more on the character's weaknesses over their strengths, because the weaknesses will make them choose strategic options in the battle and make it more exciting when the character does win despite their weaknesses. This is not to say that their strengths are also important, but it's important to consider how they can use their strengths in a way that helps them to turn the battle scene in a way that suits them. But it's also important to consider how their weaknesses can make them shine in a way that helps them stand against the other character. You will notice that in most battle scenes, it's more so important that the characters fighting each other are able to use their weaknesses to their advantage more so than their strengths. So for example, your character might have water abilities. They may be able to create large waves of water which could be used in a very destructive capability. However, this could also be a weakness. If the other character they're fighting against has ice abilities, they would be able to freeze the water, causing them to be unable to use their abilities. Or your character may have shadow manipulation abilities. They may be able to manipulate other people's shadows. But if the sun goes behind a cloud and there is no shadows, then they would not be able to use their abilities. So when you're crafting a good battle scene, always consider every character's abilities and consider their strengths and weaknesses and how this could shape the battle scene to one character's advantage. As you create a battle scene, consider it like a sort of like a match of table tennis between the two players. One person bats across and the other character reacts. There's always a reaction, there's always a cause, and then there's an effect. So as your characters are fighting, consider how one character takes an action and the other character reacts. Always consider what the reaction is for the action, and this will help you to create more intense and interesting battle scenes. It's also important when creating a battle scene to consider the strategy behind your character's actions. This is where the strategic battle elements come in. It's always more exciting to see a battle scene where one character might seem outmatched. When they are outmatched with an opponent who is more physically stronger than they are, they may be able to use their strategy in order to find a way to overcome this difficult opponent. So that is why it's really important that when you're creating a battle scene in your manga or comic or light novel, it's important to think about how your character may be able to outmatch their opponent through strategy rather than just their physical abilities. Whether there are other things that they can use in the moment, maybe there are actual buildings that they could hide behind or objects that they could use in the moment, maybe there is distractions, maybe they can use other interesting elements. Consider your character's skills and how they could use those skills as an advantage in order to create strategic moves during a battle scene. As you're creating your battle scene, consider what the end result would be of this battle scene. As your characters are fighting, consider how it may affect the other characters around them, or other places in the world, or other elements of that world, and that can really help you to create a battle scene that really affects the rest of the world as a whole. To give a very rough example of this, if you think about the beginning of the game Oblivion, where there's the Battle of Kvatch and the Oblivion Gate opens, which destroys the whole town, there are people in other towns who talk about the fact that there was this big battle at the town. And obviously you can see the destruction in the world, the destruction that is going to remain in that city for a long time to come. So you have to consider as you're creating your battle scene what the end result of that would be and how that destruction would affect the rest of the world in your story and also the other characters within it. How would other characters react to this battle or fighting scene and the result of that battle scene? When it comes to characters using supernatural powers and abilities, consider if they need to charge up their powers in some way in order to make the battle scene more interesting. It may be that when they are using supernatural abilities, they may need to charge their abilities in some way or rest after using a lot of their abilities. These weaknesses and limitations would make it more exciting to see how they use their abilities in effective ways during the scene. This is why in many magical girl animes, you'll typically see that the transformation sequence will usually have a certain time limit where they'll be able to stay transformed before they will turn back into their usual form. And this is the same case for using powers and abilities. They may only be able to use a certain ability a certain number of times before they will run out of charges for that ability. So you have to consider when your characters are using their supernatural powers and abilities, the limitations make it more exciting to see how they will use those abilities in strategic ways during the battle scene. This is the same case for characters with physical abilities as well. If their weapons break or if the character gets tired during the battle scene, those limitations are going to make the battle scene feel more exciting. Or maybe they are using certain weapons or abilities in very interesting and unique ways. A good example of that is in The Rising of the Shield Hero, where he's using a shield instead of an actual weapon. So you have to consider how your character can use what they have in a very interesting way, and that can create more exciting battle scenes. As you're drawing your battle scene, especially in a manga or comic, think about how you can use unique layouts of the panels and composition in order to present that battle scene in the best possible way. Avoid using the same angle multiple times and imagine yourself as the camera director, changing the angles in order to create a really effective scene. Even if you're not great at perspective, you can still change the camera angle, and even if you may not be the best at drawing proportions or changing that angle, that change of angle alone is going to make the scene feel a lot more exciting. So I highly recommend you try it when you are drawing your fighting scenes. Try to go out of your comfort zone as an artist and try new techniques, because that is how you learn as an artist. And there are so many interesting ways to make a battle feel more exciting just through the artwork alone. Some other ways you can make a battle scene feel more exciting through the artwork is to change the perspective. So that's why in a battle scene you might see characters with a sword and the sword goes towards the viewer, or you might have a character reach towards the viewer. So always imagine that you're the camera director and you're changing the camera angle throughout the scene to the angle that would most suit the scene. I recommend that when you are drawing a fighting scene, try a number of different storyboards to see what kind of angles would work best for the scene before you finalize those pages. You can also make this exciting through the paneling as well. When you're drawing the panel, try changing the paneling to maybe diagonal panels when there's a lot of motion, maybe have the characters pop out of the paneling. There's so many unique ways to use the paneling in order to enhance the fighting scene. It's also important to consider using motion lines to show when your character is moving very quickly, or using sound effects in order to really enhance the atmosphere in the scene. Another important element in creating a good battle scene, particularly strategic battle scenes, is to understand the internal and external conflicts. The internal conflict is what is occurring in your character's mind. As they are fighting the opponent, there will be an internal conflict. Maybe they'll be having a sort of emotional reaction to what their opponent is saying or the events that are occurring around them. This internal conflict is what is holding them back. Maybe the internal conflict is that they keep thinking, oh, I might mess up, or what am I going to do if this happens? They're worried about what will happen. And that can also be a good internal conflict. The external conflicts are the events that are occurring outside of themselves. So this might be the opponent they're fighting against or other elements of the battle scene. And so by balancing the internal conflict and the external conflict, you'll be able to create more exciting and intense battle scenes. You'll notice that if you research any anime battle scene or battle scenes in manga or comics, there'll always be an internal and external conflict. The internal conflict is your character's thoughts, their perspective of the scene, and this is just as important as what is happening outside of themselves in the moment in the battle scene. Now, when it comes to creating battle scenes, the dialogue is also very important, and this sort of comes into that internal and external conflict as well. But it's important that as the battle scene progresses, it may be helpful to sort of blend the dialogue along with the fighting scene. Have moments where your characters back away from each other and say something and then lash at each other again before saying something else. balance out the scene with dialogue in order to sort of bring your audience into the scene and make them feel like they are experiencing that event along with your characters. I would recommend trying to blend the dialogue of the scene rather than having long instances of the characters standing apart in talking. It's better in the battle scene to sort of blend it together to create a balance of that fighting moments and also moments where they are talking as well. When it comes to crafting good dialogue for the battle scenes, this is where it's important to consider the emotional factor of the battle scene and how the characters are feeling and the purpose and goal behind the battle scene. When it comes to creating a battle scene, always focus more on the reaction of the characters rather than the action. And so this is also very helpful when you're creating a light novel. Rather than describing everything your characters are doing, where they are fighting against each other, try thinking about how the other character is responding to the action. And that is going to help to sort of bring the scene together and make it less wordy overall. If you need more help with this for light novel writing, I recommend checking out my video all about how to write battle scenes in a light novel, which you can watch in the card right here. Overall, when it comes to creating battle scenes in a manga, comic, or light novel, it's always important to focus on the characters first and then the battle scene second. The characters and their skills and abilities are what will really shape the battle scene, and so by understanding your characters and what actions they would take in the moment, it can help you to create a more realistic and believable scene that your audience will enjoy as well. Thank you so much for watching my video today, everyone. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please let me know in the comment section down below. Let me know what kind of battle or fighting scenes you're creating in your manga, comic, or light novel, because I would really love to hear about it, and I'm sure others would love to hear about it too. Please check out my graphic novel, Having Faith, now available in bookstores, libraries, and on Webtoons. It's a psychological thriller graphic novel which focuses on what it means to grow up, make friends, and fall in love, all while avoiding the fears we create in our own minds. Check it out in the description box down below. Again, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have an amazing day, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!